Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to do a comparison between Modiphius 2D20 system and Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? Now, this is 5th edition comparison because I don't have the Dungeons & Dragons VE edition. I don't have the Dungeons & Dragons Roman edition. Okay? All right. Let's go forward from here. By the way, the Dungeons & Dragons Roman Edition, that's the name that I used for the Dungeons & Dragons 2024 core rulebooks. All right, let's get into this. Okay. So first of all, let me give you the deets on what play experience was used for this comparison. So I am running Dungeons & Dragons, I am running Star Trek, I'm running Star Trek Adventures, Modiphius's Star Trek Adventures, okay? And that uses Modiphius's 2D20 rules system, okay? And my current campaign is called Warp Onyx, and you can get details for that in the link below. You can take a look and see the slides that we're using to run the sessions, and just if you're interested, right? So let's talk about the Modiphius, and what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about Modiphius's 2D20, specifically the difficulty check system versus the Dungeons & Dragons difficulty check system. And I want to talk about what's better in Modiphius' system, because there's a lot that's better than Dungeons & Dragons in the Modiphius 2D20 difficulty check system. All right, let's go. Okay, so let me define Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition system right now. You have an attribute, and you have a skill, okay? And if you're proficient, if you have that skill, okay, and by the way, anytime you attack with a weapon, you're proficient, you have the skill for it, right? Unless you're like a wizard attacking with a great sword, then you don't. But generally, whenever you attack, as long as you're attacking with something that you prepared, you have the skill, okay? So it's so any attack would fall under the same. So attribute, skill, Dungeon Master sets the target, you roll your 1d20, you do your additions, you do your plus from the skill, you do your plus from the attribute, and then you get your proficiency bonus if you have that skill. And then you roll against the target, and then you succeed or you fail. Okay, all right. Very straightforward, okay? Let's talk about Modiphius's 2d20 difficulty check. Really fascinating. Okay, so you have your attributes, and it has 6 attributes, just like Dungeons & Dragons. They do have different names, right? And this is something that's really interesting with the 2D20 system. Modiphius is running the 2D20 system, and they actually accept licensed properties, okay? They accept licensed properties much more aggressively than Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons, in its canon rules, does accept licensed properties, but their choice of licensed properties are very bizarre. So what are their choices of licensed properties? Right now, it's Stranger Things is canon to Dungeons & Dragons, like the Hunt for the Thessalar Hydra, all that. It's pretty wild, right? And then also Rick and Morty. Good Lord, like, that is the most jank, ridiculous choice for intellectual property they could possibly have ever made. It was such an incredible waste. And the reason why is, you're like, if we have Dungeons & Dragons, Rick and Morty, why don't we have Dungeons & Dragons Avatar? Why, Avatar Last Airbender? Why would they put this with, like, just absolute garbage rule sets and go with garbage companies? Why not make, why, like, and you're like, if we can have Rick and Morty as an IP, why can't we have real IPs? It's very confusing. Anyway, let me stay focused. So right now, Modiphius has Conan, okay, and they have Star Trek, and I'm playing the Star, and so they change the attribute per the setting. That is fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's better than Dungeons and Dragons, right? So like daring is an attribute in Modiphius's 220, Modiphius's 2d20 system. It's just flat out better than Dungeons and Dragons. It's just a flat out rock solid like baller choice. It is awesome. Excuse me. Then you have disciplines. Okay, now disciplines are exactly equal to skill, right? Oh no, I'm sorry. That's not correct. That is not correct. Let's go further from there. Let me explain what disciplines are. There are 6 disciplines, okay, and they are con, and then engineering and security, and they are literally Starfleet training. Okay, and again, on the Modiphius 2d20, these are completely different in the Conan game, right? So these disciplines really have absolutely no analog in the Dungeons and Dragons system, okay, none, right? And they're really what your character is trained in because of what they are, which is incredible. It is really, really good, okay? Then on top of that, you have focuses. And focuses could be like hand phaser, right? Or astrogation, or like Klingon language, right? It could be a focus, right? Or even Klingon culture could be a focus, right? And these are equivalent to skills, okay? So in order to make a difficulty check in Modiphius's 2d20, you use your attribute, you add it directly to, right, the discipline number, right? By the way, disciplines go from 1 to 5, and attributes go from 1 to 12. Okay, so with that said, you're usually coming, and then you have to roll under that to succeed. And then this is fascinating. You roll a number of you roll a number of d20s equal to what you can get. So you build a dice pool of d20s. Okay. And then you roll those, and every number that you get that is under the skill plus, under the attribute plus the discipline, is 1 success. And if you have an applicable focus, then any number you roll under your discipline is 2 successes, right? Which is huge. And then any ones, because it's a roll under system, any ones are critical successes, and they count as 2 successes. So, so basically you're always trying to roll under your discipline, and the game master determines, what the combination of attribute and discipline, they determine what the combination of the attribute and discipline is. And you as the player can say, hey, I think this focus is applicable, and they can say yes or no. And that unlocks the ability to get additional successes if you roll under the discipline, right? Now, this is like, so first of all, when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is outrageously complicated and full on sucks. I was so wrong. It is phenomenally effective. It is extremely, extremely, extremely effective, right? I really, really I was just so blown away with how effective this was, right? And what's even better is there's this calculation of when you get multiple successes, that becomes momentum that the player can use on other things. And it is incredibly effective, okay? In addition to that, to get those extra d20s, the player can give the game master threat to get an extra d20, and threat is, hey, I have some resources that I can legitimately introduce complications to you, and you can't complain about it because you gave it to me, right? As the player, you made a bargain, right, with the game master. And so that's one thing that can happen there. And then they can also get D20s from determination, and they can also get extra D20s by buying them with momentum, right? It is so phenomenally better than Dungeons and Dragons. The difficulty check in Modiphius is 2d20. From a player's perspective and a game master's perspective, isolated, considered, right? It is incredibly better, right? It's not even close, okay? It really is a better rules mechanic for the basic, for the basic difficulty check, okay? So that's everything that is better about the difficulty check than Dungeons. Those are all the things that are better than the Dungeons and Dragons difficulty check. There are some things that are worse, and I will cover that in a different video. Every single word you just heard was my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.